the library would have picked up her right taillight, the side that I'm on right now. That would have picked it up, okay?
Right onto Meadows Avenue. Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
John, where are you?
Pick up the phone.
We know that my client arrived back at John O'Keefe's residence at 1 Meadows Ave in Canton at 12:41 a.m. because the Commonwealth produced a voicemail that she left for John, where you can hear the garage door closing, the car door closing, the house door closing while she walked in her high heels on the garage floor. 1 Meadows is about a mile from the Canton Library. We know the video equipment was working because they have that footage from 12:16 a.m. But in the video that the prosecution turned over to us, there is a gap in that video from 12:37 a.m. to 12:39 a.m., which would have been the precise time my client would have been driving back past the library. We know that that footage would show that my client's taillight was still intact at that point because she never struck John O'Keefe with her vehicle. Yet the prosecution has produced a video from the library with that crucial time period missing. This evidence is strictly in their possession. We've been told that the Canton police provided the evidence to them via a share file. The Canton Library provided this evidence to them via a share file link with a guest ID and a guest password. We need that link, that user ID, and that password. We cannot rely on Trooper Michael Proctor, conflicted Michael Proctor, to sanitize exculpatory evidence before sending it to us. We need the original footage. If the Commonwealth answers that that original footage no longer exists, then we'll need an evidentiary hearing to put the relevant parties under oath to find out what happened to it. The bottom line here, Your Honor, is that we've spent 15 months trying to uncover the truth.
The video was provided by the IT director for the town of Canton.
My name is Louis Jutras. I am the Information Systems Manager for the town of Canton.
There was a share file that was shared with the troopers. The troopers, upon receiving that, it was Trooper Dunn who received that video, not Trooper Proctor.
A Worcester man has filed a lawsuit against 2 Massachusetts state police troopers, accusing the troopers of slamming him to the ground and arresting him with no just reason, naming Massachusetts State Police Trooper Matthew Dunn. Dunn, according to the lawsuit, slammed him to the pavement in the travel lane of a busy highway, kneeled him in the back and punched him in the head while cuffing his wrist so tightly as to draw blood and wrenched him up from the ground, arresting him without cause. And then, with the help of another trooper who was on the scene, tried to hide what he had done. Before Dunn made the arrest, the victim heard him on the phone with the police supervisor saying, "Sergeant, I got this kid roughed up in front of over 500 people," apparently referring to drivers on the highway. Then, Dunn asked for advice on what charges for which the victim could be arrested. He was arrested on 2 minor charges, which were tossed out in district court the next day.
Now, as far as the video was provided to Trooper Matthew Dunn of the CPAC unit with the District Attorney's Office, that was then shared with Ms. Crawford. Was a person in our office who specifically deals with forensic and surveillance video and type evidence. It was then archived on our system. Recently, we reached out and spoke to the IT director of the town of Canton. Again, that share link I tried to send to council, email essentially wouldn't go through. We tried to open it, essentially it wouldn't open. So the link expired within 60 days, if not 30 days, of it being shared with our office, but the exact information that was provided by the town of Canton was archived by Ms. Crawford, was then provided to council at her arraignment in Superior Court. as well as I was able to download it onto a Citrix file, which I then shared with council earlier this week. So what we have as a video, what exists as a video, what we were given as a video for those relevant time frames was placed onto the archived within our system, was then placed onto a disk, and what's on the disk and what's been provided to council is what we received.
Okay.
Judge Beverly Cunone has no follow-up questions. Upon learning that footage from a functioning camera pointed directly at Karen's vehicle as it drove by has gone inexplicably missing. Somewhere along this chain of custody, the clip was removed. Prosecutor Lally seems to be placing the blame on the IT director.
What's on the disk and what's been provided to council is what we received.
But I'm unconvinced. It's also difficult to believe a civilian non-cop video technician would be invited to destroy evidence by the state police officers she works with. That leaves Trooper Dunn, a co-worker of Troopers Proctor and Tully, assigned to Michael Morrissey's office, with at least one documented example of his willingness to cover up police misconduct on his record. You are invited to draw your own conclusions. This is 34 Fairview Road, the home of the Albert family, where Karen had dropped John off on that fateful night. This is 1 Meadows Avenue, John O'Keefe's residence and Karen's destination, where she would spend the night awaiting John's arrival back home after the party. It's an approximately 6-minute, 2.3-mile drive from point A to point B. The Canton Public Library is located here in Canton Center, at the intersection of Sherman and Washington Street. When performing a Google Maps search for directions from 34 Fairview Road to 1 Meadows Avenue, 3 routes appear as options. The first suggested route is always to head south on Fairview, down to Chapman and then to Sherman, passing directly by the library. At 2.3 miles in 6 minutes, it's the shortest of the 3 options. This is the actual route Karen took back to John's home, shortly after 12:30 a.m. The second suggested route also heads south on Fairview, but this time turns east on Chapman, over to Pleasant Street. This route also has a drive time of 6 minutes, but does not pass by the library. And lastly, the third route would suggest that Karen perform a 3-point turn and drive north on Fairview, back the way her and John took to get there, to Cedar Crest, ultimately picking up Pleasant Street back to Meadows Avenue. However, this option can be eliminated, since we know that the Mass State Police canvassed homes on Cedar Crest for security footage showing Karen driving past and found none. The fact that investigators refused to then seek video from anywhere along Karen's actual driving route is one of the earliest indications we have that the fix was in from the start. They were aware that even a single frame showing Karen's Lexus 570LX passing with taillight intact could expose their unthinkable crimes against Officer John O'Keefe and girlfriend Karen Reed. It would also lock them into a rigid timeline, making it harder to blame Karen. There are dozens of homes and businesses with security cameras facing the street along this route. However, the Mass State Police entered into evidence exactly 0. Although we do know of at least one person who was going door to door, investigating the Massachusetts State Police investigation.
So I was just wondering, did the state police ever come by here and ask for ring camera footage from the morning of January 29th, 2022?
No, they haven't.
They haven't. Okay. That's literally all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.
Have a good day.
You too. That's interesting. Well, so remember, the state police really want to get to the bottom of it. They want to find ring camera footage. This would have been the exact road. A man of God, and he wouldn't sin. Okay. There's a camera. This is where Karen Reed came from. That direction. She went this way. That's another camera. Right there. So, and again, house right across the street would have had an absolutely flawless view of a car driving by. So that's 33 here. That's 34. Okay. All right. Let's park right here.
Perhaps the first and closest doorbell security camera is located diagonally across the street from the Albert residence.
It's got a ring right there. And again, look at that angle right there. How could it not pick it up with where the body was dropped?
This is where John O'Keefe's body was found. And this is where Karen Reed's vehicle was parked. The exact location witness Ryan Nagel testified that he saw her sitting alone in her SUV with the interior light on, and her hands at 10 and 2, with no visible damage to her taillight.
I mean, look at that right there. That wouldn't pick it up. Look at that. I mean, there's a car in the driveway, right?
I didn't see.
Someone's got to be home.
There was indeed a car in the driveway. However, no one answered the door. And although the camera was perfectly oriented to capture everything that occurred the night John was killed, no video footage was ever entered into evidence. The owner of this residence is Canton Deputy Police Chief Tom Kelleher, a close friend and neighbor of the Albert family and a fellow police officer. We strongly suspect that he purposefully withheld the footage in order to perpetuate the cover-up, but as of now, we have no direct evidence of it. Nevertheless, we contend that there is at least circumstantial evidence supporting the notion that no police or public officials were meant to draw attention to John's death, or there would be trouble. And what better place to check for patterns than social media? Here we have the Twitter account of Canton Deputy Chief Thomas Kelleher. His profile shows him swearing an oath to serve and protect the public. And Canton Chief of Police Helena Rafferty. Who is ultimately responsible for the actions and inactions of her department. There is distressing statistical information concerning violence directed at law enforcement officers. This should alarm all of us, those whom they bravely protect. Both the chief and the deputy chief have timelines that span back at least a decade, both filled with tributes to their fellow officers who have fallen while on duty, serving honorably and justly. For police officers and firefighters from all over the country, near and far. The chief and deputy chief unequivocally express their resounding support for their fallen comrades in uniform. For this, we commend them. So when we look back to the days following John O'Keefe's tragic death, Himself a Canton resident and Boston police officer. What dedications do we find? The number of times the name John O'Keefe appears is 0.
And I will always be able to look the O'Keefe family members in their eyes because there is absolutely no evidence of a cover-up in the tragic death of John O'Keefe.
This is the Canton Library. At approximately 12:38 a.m., Karen enters the intersection. The camera is located on the front left side of the library. Giving it a perfectly oriented view of the rear right side taillight on Karen's Lexus SUV, minutes after it was supposedly shattered into pieces after striking John. This is an exact recreation of the video clip from approximately 12:38 a.m. that would show Karen passing through the intersection with a perfectly intact rear right taillight, and then deleted by the masked state police.
Investigate 22-066 for the city building of $50,000 cash in the safe and after
They would certainly have
Sergeant Buchanan and Trooper Proctor advised of several abrasions to the right forearm, 2 swollen black eyes, a small cut above the right eye, a cut to the left side of his nose, approximately 2-inch laceration to the back of his head, multiple skull fractures that resulted in bleeding.
Where are the Boston police? One of their own was murdered, thrown out like trash, and they're nowhere to be found. I had 3 state troopers next to me. I don't know what side they're on, and that scares me. What side of history are you going to be on?
Body cameras. We are not currently wearing them. What's happening to our community? The slow erosion of the criminal justice system.
You want to step outside? You want to step outside? Oh my God!
Someone in that house is talking. We cannot keep that many people quiet for so long. Every single minute wasted going after Karen Reed is time that could be spent going after the actual people who killed.
Ms. McCabe, reporting a male party subsequently identified as the victim, Mr. John O'Keefe.
Someone's coming out to help.
Who was found in the snow at a residence on Fairview Road. John's dead. Terry, I wonder if he's dead. I hit him.
Karen Reed fucking ran John over.